Hey, this is Max Bennett from WMD, and we are excited to be back. And this time we're under a new name, WMD Worldwide, the first name of Worldwide Entertainment. We have much more content planned for you, the viewer, not only podcasts, but new shows ranging from political commentary to sports to conspiracies to whatever you want to see. So, with that being said, welcome to WMD Now, a new show where we bring you the truth of what is happening now. WMD Now. So, that being said, Derek Johnson is on the show with me. Will cannot be here, though he will be here in future episodes. Derek?
I'd like to say, first of all, hello to you, Max, and hello to the viewers. I think we can all agree that we're excited to be back, not just us in WMD, but I think our community will be happy to see us back, especially in times right now. I think voices like ours are important. People that are willing to tell the truth about people like Joe Biden, especially, and things that are going on. So, yeah, I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, and, we're going to do our best. We're going to be talking about not only Joe Biden, but, the previous administration, Trump.
Yeah.
WMD Now is, our political commentary show. So, it is what is going to be going on, now and kind of politics. So, might not be up everyone's alley, but, if you are interested or if you want to be enlightened, then this is the correct show for you. So, okay. Today we are going to be talking about, you might have guessed from the thumbnail, Joe Biden. He's in. So what is next? We're a few days removed from his inauguration. So Derek, what did you think of Joe Biden's inauguration?
So alone from the substance of what was said in the actual speeches made, I'd like to first touch on a point that I thought was almost dystopian in a way, which is how it looked and how it was all formatted. How, obviously due to this pandemic, we have restrictions on people gathering and things like that. But in a time where people are concerned about the militarization of the police and, how Trump has had the Department of Homeland Security rounding up protesters and things like that, it's not a good look to have military all over the nation's capital when there's a swearing in of a president that half the country thinks is illegitimate.
Right. Yeah.
It gives a bad look to it. And whether or not, those concerns are even valid, I think it does not promote the message of unity that Biden was going for.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. The inauguration had this very, gloomy feel to it, without any people, obviously with the military there, and you get it, protection, but, it's kind of like a sad, reflection. We're in that dark of a place,
Right.
So it is, and, the country is in a dark place, it's the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. The pandemic is getting worse. I think, when the inauguration happened, it was over 400,000 people that have died. I don't know what the number is now. Mm-hmm. And, there's people, we still haven't got that stimulus, that was promised. And, there's people still without health care. So Biden's inauguration on the outside looks pretty bad, but with the circumstances, you kind of understand it. But I guess, yeah, no. So what did you kind of take away from his speech, I guess?
So the speeches in general, I think they kind of fit the mold of all past speeches made by Democrats over the past 20 to 30 years, which is all flowery words like unity, togetherness, hope, change, things like that, but no concrete ideas. And this is done on purpose, I believe. This is done to deflect off of blame when they don't get real consequential change done. And I think this is a very, especially in times like now, a very morally bankrupt thing to do when people need to hear action now and they need to hear concrete ideas. $2,000 now. We didn't get it. So
yeah,
I think that's why, because if they had made more promises like that, we'd be in more situations where we're not getting what we want.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, I thought, everybody spoke, everyone that spoke did a good job. I thought Biden's speech about his usual talking points. You said hope, unity, and, democracy was one of them, which is kind of, sad, like reflection that, that's something you're even running on is democracy, But, as good as you could get with that. And, the idea of unity and these kind of, rudimentary things that, we as a nation should not be struggling with because, hope, unity, democracy, you think for, the most, I don't know, the greatest country ever, you think would be past the idea of unity and, democracy. Right. So for Biden to kind of win on these like very, basic things, it's kind of, because it kind of how bad Trump was, he's that polarizing that we allowed status quo Joe to to really get in without not offering anything other than he's not Trump. So
well, and there was polling done on this too that asked Democratic voters what was the main reason they were voting for Joe Biden in the primaries over candidates like Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, etc. And the main reason was they believed he was the most electable. He'd be the best chance to beat Donald Trump. So that reflected in the polling as well. But I'd also like to touch on this point, which I think is important. As a general scheme of things, the reason why we have Donald Trump is because of people like Joe Biden. If there wasn't such a colossal failure over the past 20 years of the Democrats with people like Bush, or not Bush, but Clinton and Obama, we wouldn't be where we are
Bush
today.
too. You kind of
Bush too, of course.
Republican establishment. People lost faith in that. So Trump did run as an outsider. Even from the Republican Party. So.
That is a good point to bring up. It's the establishment as a whole which works together, and that's why somebody like Trump came up. Even though lots of the things he did were pro-establishment, just the veneer of being anti-establishment was enough because people are so sick of these fake people in politics.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Biden, we're going to rail on him, but he did run on some good things, so he kind of is going to get in with the status quo, kind of, politician that he is, but he did run on, a lot of progressive new things, like $15 federal minimum wage, and we'll get into that, in what he's going to implement. He's going to take on climate change, which it's just a fact at this point. I don't think we're going to dispute that. If people want to have us do a video on it, I'd love to. And then obviously ran on a lot of education reform, student loan forgiveness, all these things. But Joe never had this big idea he ran on. The big leaps and bounds, I guess, that this country really needs are going to come from Joe, and that is because Trump was so polarizing and bad that we the people got the short end of the stick. We're stuck with Biden. And that's, kind of a testament to how the two parties have failed us, the American people. And we have to settle for somebody like, Joe Biden. So, how do we go on? Two parties are kind of, ruining this country, you ask me. And we'll do another video on that, I'm sure. And the fact is, Joe Biden is our president. And I guess, what do we really expect from him other than he's not Trump? So, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's another good point that you made. Like we've been talking about how it's just kind of vague words that they use to run on. When you look at a Bernie Sanders type figure or more independents like the Libertarian or Green Party, they always run on ideas. Listen to a Libertarian talk, they'll be talking about Libertarian ideas. You listen to a Green Party member talk, they're talking about environmental justice and things like that. You listen to Bernie Sanders, it's Medicare for all, Medicare for all, Medicare for all. Joe Biden doesn't have a clear platform laid out, and that's on purpose. But I also want to hit on this point of we've kind of already gotten hints of what we're going to expect to see in the next few years. But I actually have an article that I think would be very useful to bring up, and we've got that on the screen now, I believe. And this is an interview from Politico with Bernie Sanders, and I'll read you out the quote out loud. With the Senate now in Democratic majority, Bernie Sanders is now the chair of the Budget Committee for the Senate, which gives him much more power to control where the money goes in our government and how things like that will operate. So I'd like to read this quote out loud. This is Bernie Sanders speaking. I'm going to use reconciliation in as aggressive a way as I possibly can to address the terrible health and economic crises facing working people today. Sounds good, right? Sounds like something we all want to hear. But then he goes on later in the article to say this when questioned about Medicare for all and real change. He says, what we will be doing is working within the context of what Biden wants. And that's just key for me. That just shows that there's going to be no progress made because it's all going to be about what the neoliberals want. And they always get what they want. So I think they're kind of just hanging a bone in front of our face, but nothing, Nothing.
Well, yeah, he kind of had, like this, like he said, he's going to be the most progressive president since FDR. And
yeah,
I guess, that might be kind of true because every politician since FDR hasn't, I guess other than JFK with, you're talking like grand scheme of things, but
right.
This idea that he is, gonna be, like this new, shift of like this Democratic Party back to like, FDR Democrats, is, it's kind of insanity. He's an Obama clone, and like I said, you're gonna get that status quo, and these are breadcrumbs, $15 minimum wage, and we were just talking before we start recording, that's only going to be implemented, what do you say, by 2025? So
yeah,
it's kind of like even these things that are, good and, progressive and kind of, like these big, small leaps, but we need big leaps, but they're not even being done, over the course of, his first 100 days. It's over 5 years. So.
Right. And that gives it time for it to be changed from future legislatures. Like, I believe that the Republicans would gain control back. If not in 2022, then there's a great chance of it happening in 2024.
Well, so I think that will happen if they don't start doing stuff. I think Bernie Sanders talked about that. How I think it was in 2014 or 2012 they were wiped out in the House, and Obama was in. So yeah, so they got to get something done within the next 2 years. That is enough to keep people on, the left. But are we going to see it? I don't know. He did come through on one of his campaign promises with privatized prisons, though he only, would be outlaw federal privatization contracts with prisons. So I think states and ICE facilities, so immigration, can still, have these contracts, but it's like you're getting half of what, half. So you're getting like this, small percentage of what, the big leaps and bounds we need. So
yeah, and Joe Biden, like you said, ran on being the most progressive president since FDR. That's like say you have a smart friend named Alex, let's just say, and Alex scores a 90 on a test, and then everybody else bombs it, gets a 50%, and then you get a 51, and you say, "Oh, I'm the best since Alex,"
Yeah, no, he's like everyone else is so. Yeah, everyone else has been done such little that like he might be, kind of a weird look, but he might be. Mm-hmm. He did put up a picture of FDR in the Oval Office. I saw.
Oh,
Joe.
Yeah, big change coming. That means, but no. To hit back on that Bernie Sanders article, though, I think that everything that politicians say, it has meaning behind it. I believe they don't just go out there and throw words in the wind. They have to be calculating. They have to be thorough. They can't say things that.
Well, yeah, no, there's trade-offs. I think with everything they say. So, whether he says this one thing to suggest the idea he's going to do another, or just to sway some people to get off, what off this issue for this. So.
Yeah, but
you're kind of seeing it now with the stimulus. It's kind of everything is dodging the stimulus. It's not a topic of conversation. But
I mean, they're focusing on impeachment.
When they had the re-election, they had that runoff election. That was a big emphasis. It's like we get in, that stimulus is coming out right away because that's what we're running on. But now it's not even the topic right now.
Now it's $1,400 in a few months, possibly, and we don't even know if we get that. So what we need right now is our progressive leaders to step up, people that claim to be on the side of the working people, like the whole squad, like fellows like Ro Khanna and other people like that in Congress, to step up right now and challenge Joe Biden in every meaningful way possible. Because when you have like what Bernie Sanders saying, that we'll only be working within the context of what Joe Biden wants, you're already constricting yourself to a very narrow range of possibilities. Why not just shoot the food here? And then if you get a bit lower than that, if you shoot for Medicare for all, but instead you get another single payer option, I mean, that's a win.
Yeah, no, it's like you want to, take these, there's no real risk, I guess, to it by taking these, so-called risks. Like you said, if you shoot for the stars and you at least, you go to the moon or whatever, you get something out of it. That's a win, it's a good trade-off. So
yeah, we're not asking for the world. We're just asking for people to try. And we've seen a lack of trying it, especially in Washington, for decades.
And we're just asking what they told us we were going to get, what they're elected for. So, I mean, is that too much to ask what you ran on? I don't know.
I don't think so. But I consider myself an optimist in a way. I remain hopeful that Joe Biden can and will do change.
Well, man, I was shocked when I went on Twitter today and I saw that the Attorney General was not going to renew federal prisons contracts. I definitely thought he was going to run on that, and there'd be some sort of thing through the House that would have to happen, and whatever. That's what they run on an idea, and then they say, well, we'll go through the House to make sure whatever, it's bipartisan or whatever, and then it gets lost with everything else. But I guess executive order. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because I think people underestimate the power of the executive branch. The executive branch can get so much done. Like on day one, for example, Joe Biden could have made it so marijuana was lowered much lower on the schedule list, so that it was not an illegal substance to own, or at least not so in the way that you could get prison time for it, and he could also have expunged the record all on day one through pardons and commissions and things like that, but he chose not to. Every day he chooses not to do that is another day people sit in prison for a crime that should not be a crime, in my opinion. It's a nonviolent offense that affects nobody but the person themselves. It's a personal choice by adults.
And yeah, it's another thing too is people got to understand that there is profit being made off sending these people to prison. So when there's an ulterior motive for these harmless acts, you got to like question. It's like, do we really think people are deserve to lose their life for a certain amount of time because one day they decided to smoke pot when it was illegal? There's still people now that it is recreational in a lot of states. There's still people serving time for something that was illegal 2 decades ago. So
right, and that's just the total hypocrisy of it. Because in one state you can smoke it and it's fine, in the next state there's people serving upwards of life sentences for just having it.
Yeah.
So totally, he needs to fix that. Get on it right now. I don't care what the insiders say or anything like that. It's the right thing to do. We have to stop caring about what the optics are in the media and how it'll be perceived and things like that. If it's the right
it's a humanitarian. It's most people should not be in favor of people going to prison for petty things. So I think most people would agree on that too. I don't think we should be sending anyone to prison if they're not doing something egregious. So.
And as Tolstoy said, I think it was Tolstoy, you can judge a country best by how it treats its prisoners, and the United States is probably worst at that. Maybe next to China, but it's up there.
I'd like to do a video on just prisons in general, because what is a prison? People you rehabilitate, and that's how many people are rehabilitated from prison. I don't know. So that's I'd like to dive into a lot more stuff about prisons, just to present it in another way. So just kind of looking through Biden's executive orders, and he's signed, I think, over 20 now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Trump signed only a handful in his first few days, right?
Yeah. Lots of the executive orders Biden has signed has been
reversal.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of COVID things, but in the way of real new fundamental change to things, we haven't seen too much besides the private.
Yeah, I think just a few. Yeah.
Brought up.
Well, another thing you get into is where we were just talking about the power of the executive branch and the president. Is you're getting this where Biden's first objective was to undo whatever Trump did. Mm-hmm. So if we were talking about how the Republicans could gain control in the House, and maybe 4 years from now they could gain control in the executive branch presidency. So is everything that Biden's going to do be reversed because the executive branch has that power to just reverse stuff? The signature. Yeah. It's kind of a dangerous, not dangerous, but it's kind of like a thing where we're not really getting any progress done by reversing.
It's like a cyclical trap. You just keep going around and around and around in circles when, at the end of the day, well, actually, I wouldn't say that quite so much, because the Republicans end up getting what they want always. It just moves further and further to the right because the Democrats will never not compromise with them. You always see these deals when the Democrats are in charge about bipartisanship coming through. But when it's the Republicans, it's always a 51-49 vote in the Senate or things like that. The Republicans never make deals with the Democrats. The Democrats always make deals with the Republicans.
That's why I guess they're so-called winners, if you look at it, retrospectively. Yeah. So I was looking at this one here. Biden undoes the immigration enforcements of the United States, Trump's expansion. So this whole Biden-Biden administration was one that kind of ramped up, the stuff on the border. And then you see a few years from now, it's kind of flips. Is that because Biden does have a change of heart on this, or is it just the politics of what Trump did that made it look bad?
Oh, I think it's totally the politics of it, because if you look at the Obama-Biden first administration, they deported more illegals than Trump did. So I don't think this is some sort of political epiphany that Biden had. Right. I think it's all about the public and what they.
Oh, you even saw that in the debate where Trump definitely in the wrong here with putting kids in cages, but he's like, "Well, Joe, you're the one that built those cages," and Biden is just kind of like, "We made a mistake." It's like, I've been. Other countries have made mistakes similar like that, and I'm not going to bring up the Holocaust, but last time a country was locking, its innocent people up for something they didn't do. We put them on trial at Nuremberg. So
right.
You want to say you made a mistake, when do we start, treating, politicians like they are actually breaking the law, making mistakes? Because that is unethical. It's, inhumane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a mistake is like shifting your car gear and making, hitting reverse instead of forward or things like that. Putting children in cages is not a mistake. I think, when it comes
It's
to
an
things
act.
like that, there's clear, deliberate
And
murder on the
and
part
it's a
of police
crime.
and things like that. It's a crime. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a humanitarian crisis, and I think because we never lock up politicians or things like that, they just go away with impunity. They never
Yeah, no, it's like there's no other job on the planet other than, meteorologist where you can be wrong so much as a politician, and you kind of get away with it because it's just the optics of the job. But when you do get the things like locking kids up and these detention centers on the border where it is humane, it's un-American. The Statue of Liberty says, give me your you're poor, and like I can't quote the exact thing, but you get the idea. Pulling a little Joe Biden there, but this idea, America is, founded on, this, arms wide open, to quote Scott Stapp, and we've kind of shifted from that. And it's kind of, the last few administrations have ramped up, not only the police, but, immigration services. So I don't know where I was going with this, but
let's just remain hopeful. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures, and all we have right now is Joe Biden. So I'm not saying to get behind him, but at least let's pressure him. Let's hope for the best and stay strong, I guess, during these times.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I guess with that being said, this will be the inaugural episode of Joe Biden is in What Is Next, episode 1 of WMD Now. So hopefully we'll have Will on. Eventually we can have another screen on here. That'll be fun. Maybe a guest in the future. I don't know.
Who knows?
So thanks for listening, and check out other videos that we're going to be putting out. WMD Sports is a rumored to be a new show, so there may be a sports show out there. I don't know.
All right.
And I just want to bring this up one more time. WMD Now is brought to you by WMD Worldwide, the first name in worldwide entertainment.
Yep.
WMD Podcast has rebranded. It's now a syndicate of WMD Worldwide, just so you know. So find us at all social medias at WMD Worldwide, and obviously on YouTube at WMD Worldwide. And with that being said, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.